So in this section, we're going to look at bringing home workers and furloughed drivers back to work. We're looking probably at a phased return to work as the lockdown restrictions are lifted, and I guess that's likely to take many months for us to get back to normal as different sectors and different types of businesses are allowed to lift the restrictions going forward. The issues we've discussed so far around fatigue and drug taking and mental health, are they likely to pose any problems with reinstating these drivers? Ian, if I come to you first on that.
I think if there's been underlying mental health problems or issues, I don't think they'll have gone away by being sat at home on their own. So I think that's still got to be considered. My side of things, what I see with drugs and alcohol, drug dealers always find a way to get their product shifted, and people who want the drugs for whatever reason, they will always find a way to access them. So again, that's not gone away. And as far as alcohol sales, it's generally reported the massive increase in alcohol sales through the supermarkets, and even home delivery of alcohol. It's nearly caught up with home delivery of pizzas and home delivery of drugs. So you're talking about, in some parts, some cities, 15 minutes, half an hour delivery times for these items. So I don't think any of that is reduced. I think we need to be careful of it. Be aware that people might have relaxed into an easy way of life and not realise it's a school night, tomorrow's work. We should look at onboarding these people, reminding them of the responsibilities they have and the policies, etc., and educate them as to why.
The issues, obviously, where we have had people, and we've all experienced this, perhaps we've been on holiday for a week or two, and the fatigue, and when you get back to work, the first day back can feel a longer day. This is in a very long, extended period where people haven't perhaps had the normal routines. I mean, maybe this is a question for you, Paul. I mean, should companies look to change the work patterns to start off with employees, or perhaps be aware of the physical demands or maybe even the mental challenges of going from being at home for an extended period of time to suddenly being working maybe up to 8 or 10 hours, depending upon their commutes?
I think there's some value in that, certainly. We've got a situation where a very large proportion of the workforce have been used to a very different, have got used to a very different lifestyle. Going back into a particular shift working scenario, getting up at ungodly hours again is going to be a bit of a challenge for a lot of people. There's inevitably going to be some impact on fatigue levels. So one option would be gently easing people into shift patterns again. I don't know how feasible or realistic that is, but certainly in safety critical operations that I've worked with, in mining and oil and gas, it's quite common for shift workers who have come back from extended periods off to start their first day, for example, a little later, or to finish their first duty a little earlier. So mitigations, recognizing that fatigue could be an issue, and then putting in place mitigations that work for the organization. I think that's a good strategy. So certainly having an awareness of the potential problem and an awareness of some of the things you can do, there's no harm in that, definitely.
And I think that awareness is key, isn't it? I think, Ian, if fleets are going to get that message across to their drivers before they come back, how should they be looking at communicating that? Because we've seen the importance of policy while with operational drivers. It's going to be critical to get drivers who are coming back to remember to follow established fatigue or drug policies, isn't it?
yes, it would seem to me that there's nothing wrong at all with creating a back to work induction. Onboarding, I think, is the modern terminology, you know, and even if you're furloughed, one of the interesting things with being furloughed is that you are allowed to carry on training. So this is a perfect time to put some sort of message back out to your employees. And it goes back to what we always say about drug and alcohol. It's policy, educate, deter and detect. So yeah, I'm all on for somebody should put some effort into onboarding and back to work in these people, drivers, employees.
And I'd add to that, actually, if you know that you've got people coming back on a specific date, then get that information out to them before they get back, particularly with regard to fatigue and ensuring that people get adequate sleep before they're coming back into the workplace. That doesn't begin with the day before you start work. It's maybe a week before if you've got that information. So, you know, giving people the understanding that, okay, you're starting back on this date. That means you need to start preparing by getting back into the routine of your normal bedtime when you're working, which probably isn't the same as the bedtime you've been experiencing for the last 3 or 4 weeks or 5 weeks or more.
Paul, that's for both of you, that's really great advice, because a lot of what we've been talking about is getting the vehicles ready for return to work and making sure that they're mechanically sound and able to cope with the going back on the road, but the same consideration for getting the employees ready to go back on the road. And I think giving them notification well beforehand. If they are furloughed, they may not be picking up their emails, so getting hold of them on the phone. And in fairness, the suggestion on training, I think, as you say, for the mental stimulus, work routine and things like that. But that's really great advice from both of you on that. So thank you. I think that's
yeah. And I'd like to thank you all, gentlemen, for a really insightful discussion around those issues. I think that's hopefully been very valuable to everyone listening, and we will be putting a number of supporting resources available on both the Driving for Better Business and FleetCheck websites later. The websites addresses will be at the end of the video. I hope you found that informative, and we'll see you on the next video.